It just drives me crazy.
Drives me crazy, too.
And Feinbaum can suck on a bag of potatoes.
From the Score Sports Closet, it's the Umpqua Basin Tailgate Show.
Now, who wants to do a sports talk show? Let's get an informal poll here on this Friday.
Yeah.
Who's ready to talk some sports?
Yeah, I'm ready to talk some sports.
Yes, please.
The one thing that I didn't really think about at the time, and the more that I think about it now when that intro was played, and we just did that trip to Salem this past week for the spring basketball game, is your disdain for pickles. And so it just means a little bit more when he told Paul Feinbaum
bag of pickles.
to suck on a bag of pickles. It makes more sense. Normally I was like, he just wants you to suck on a pickle, but you hate pickles. So that's an even worse comment. It means more.
It just means more.
It means more
when it's pickles on the line. Hey, welcome in, everybody. Hopefully your day is minus pickles so far today. Welcome into the Umpqua Basin Tailgate Show, presented by our friends at BTB Moving. With Knight Jarecki, I'm Joey Keeran. It is great to be with you, talking some sports here on this Friday afternoon. Oh, man, it feels like I keep forgetting that this weekend isn't like a holiday weekend for everybody. My family is getting ready to do our side of my side of the family's Christmas. Mm-hmm. We kind of have to move things around based on schedules. You've got, I've got me and then my wife. So we try to, split times between the two of our families. My brother's got, obviously his side of the family, my side of the family, and then his wife's side of the family. So it's a conglomeration of sharing time between everybody in the families. And so we've got our family Christmas coming up this weekend, and it has me in this holiday mindset of Christmas is around the corner. It's a big weekend coming up, and I got to remember that most other people, they're not probably doing the same things I am. So today feels very stressful because I'm trying to get stuff done so we can go and begin our holiday weekend with my side of the family. We got to drive over the passes, which has been giving me a little bit of anxiety this afternoon, watching the snow fall up over the Willamette and Diamond Lake passes, and up at Sandy Am where my brother's got to drive through. And my parents are getting dumped on in Sun River. So I got all this anxiety going on around it, and today's show has this feeling of it's Christmas time, bowl games should be gone, and it's college, it's just a wonderful time of the year. In my head, there's so many things going on right now.
Dude, I think it's a little odd for me, too, because normally I'm in the same mindset as you, and traditionally that's been the case. I've been in university, I've been in high school, and so right around this time of year, you're kind of wrapping up classes, and your whole focus, especially as a young male that loves sports, is bowl games, bowl games, bowl games. And there's a bowl game literally tomorrow, and then there's more bowl games all next week, and I'm just not in the bowl game mindset yet. It hasn't occurred to me because it's we got work, and then we got work, and
yeah. And we've got...
You don't even think about it. But for me, my entire life, it was a whole week off of school, all the way up until Christmas, and it was bowl game. Every single day I watched a bowl game. And you know what? I'm probably going to watch a bowl game every single day. Will I be working at the same time? Yes, but it just doesn't mean as much as it did when I was a kid, maybe.
Welcome to adulthood for one.
I know, I'm complaining. I'm so young. I'm 22, and here I am complaining about no school. You know what?
Complaining that you don't get 3 weeks off of being responsible for something. You can just lay on the couch at your parents' house.
Well, yes.
Your mom makes you dinner, makes you food all day long, and you can watch sports all day long. Those are the glory days right there, my friend.
They really are. And you know what I don't get is why in corporate America they don't give us a 3-week holiday for bowl season. Because I think bowl season means so much. Could you imagine that? That would be incredible. That would be the most American thing possible, giving us 3 weeks off to watch college football.
That might be a theme of some of what's on today's program here for us on the meaning and the importance of bowl season here coming up. We will talk about that. We've got plenty to discuss here on this episode. Happy December 13th, everyone. It's great to have you with us. We are recapping what we saw last weekend as Oregon wins its first ever Big Ten championship in football, in its first ever chance to win a Big Ten championship in football. Pretty exciting there. The Ducks are the number 1 seed. College football playoffs begin in a week from, I think today, actually. And so there's a lot to get into when it comes to college football. Bowl season does start tomorrow. We've got Army and Navy, America's game coming up tomorrow as well. You can tune in for that here on The Score. But a lot to just get to in the world of football. The NFL season is heating up with college football starting to wind down. Maybe our focus here in a state that doesn't have an NFL franchise, maybe our focus starts shifting a little bit more towards discussion of what's going on in the big league. So, we got a lot to get to here on today's program. It's also holiday time, so all sorts of fun stuff to get into, and we are excited to have you with us. If you want to join the program, share your thoughts, what you thought about the Ducks and their performance in the Big Ten title game, their chances of winning a national championship. We'd love to hear from you. You can give us a call at 541-673-5551. That's 541-673-5551. Feel free to call the show and give us your comments here on the radio. You can also hit us up on our YouTube channel. That is 1490 The Score on YouTube. We are streaming live there. Comment sections are open, so feel free to pop on there and leave us a note in the comment section on our YouTube channel as well. So a lot of ways that you can be a part of the program, and we encourage you to do so. We love hearing from you guys as the show goes along here today. All right, Knight, we are getting ready for today's program, putting together notes on everything.
Yep.
And, the weather outside might be a little frightful. It's the middle.
But in here, it's so delightful.
It is. It is the middle of the workday, so I guess there's that as well. But, tailgate party's just not the same if you don't have one ready for you, if you don't have a cold one ready to go. So let's go ahead and get the program started as we crack a cold one.
Nothing gets a tailgate party going like a nice cold beverage. So let's crack one open and kick off today's show with our top story.
36 seconds remaining. Final snap of the game, and Tess Johnson
Oh, baby.
the backflip, and Oregon is going to defeat Penn State and win the Big Ten championship for 2024. Oh, what a feeling.
I'm really proud of our players. They accomplished this. I didn't have anything to do with it. I just get to keep the train on the tracks, and we have unbelievable leadership. We have an unbelievable coaching staff. The Big Ten's tough, right? And I think tonight's game is a great example of that. This is a tough league. It's hard to go out there and win, and to be able to do what our guys did tonight, I'm really proud of, their effort to be to give just a little bit extra. I thought everybody gave a little bit extra tonight, and that showed up.
Well, that is Jerry Allen on the Oregon Sports Network. That was Dan Lanning in the post-game press conference after the Oregon Ducks get a win over Penn State. I was going to say Boise State. That's really weird.
They did beat Boise State.
They did beat Boise State. That was a little bit different timing in the year. The Ducks beat Penn State for the Big Ten championship. And, fantastic game all around. It was very close, competitive. Yeah. Exciting, big plays.
You got to watch the game.
I did watch the whole thing. You were working. You were doing a Roseburg basketball game. You probably have since, though, gone back and rewatched the game.
Yes. No, but, it's not the same as, watching it.
For sure.
It's like watching a movie when you know what the ending's going to be. That's what it is.
For sure. It's definitely not. But at the same time, I would almost say then you can kind of watch the game to kind of be able to pick apart things a little bit more, whereas watching it live the first time, you're just kind of ingrained in what's going on with the game. I was watching that game on the edge of my seat the entire time is basically where it was. I like to watch a game and have Twitter open and being able to kind of see what people are talking about when the game's going on. A lot of complaints about the defense. I had a few people they're not like reporters or they're fans that I follow that I don't ever really see, and then suddenly the Big Ten championship game's going on, and they just absolutely want to just throw out everything about the Oregon Ducks defense in that game. Look, did they play their best game defensively? No, but I think we got to take into consideration that the Oregon Ducks were taking on a Penn State team that is kind of good. They have done a lot of good things. They had not only lost one game going into that matchup, and they provide a lot of challenges to a defense with the way they operate. They've got a talented quarterback, maybe not the best one in the land, but he's a good, solid quarterback that can make plays, and he's got some really good weapons to try and distribute the ball too. And so that's a good offense for Penn State. It's going to challenge a lot of defenses. And Oregon's defense, yeah, they gave up some big plays. They didn't come through when they needed to on a couple of spots, but what did they do? They came through when the game was on the line.
Mm-hmm. You know, it for me, and like I had the game on while I was broadcasting the game. I wasn't fully paying attention, just kind of looking at the score. And there's part of me that was just nervous. Like Oregon was up 28-10 in that game. And watching Penn State and knowing Penn State's history, it felt a lot like that 2016 Big Ten championship game, the last time that Penn State was in it. They were up against Wisconsin, and the game ended up being a 38-31 shootout. But Penn State was down 28-7 in that game against Wisconsin, stormed back, and won the game. And Oregon's up 28-10, and all of a sudden, Penn State makes it within a 4-point game. Right before the end of the first half, Oregon kicks the field goal, goes up by 10. But there's part of you that's like, man, Oregon's in control. They're up 28-10. Bam. Back-to-back drives of touchdowns. You get a stop defensively. Penn State's in the game. And it felt very, very similar to that 2016 game. And you're very nervous. But at the end of the day, the offense was huge. Penn State hadn't given up that many points all season.
Yeah.
This was an elite Penn State team. Defensively, that was the strength coming into the game. Like, if you would have told somebody, hey, Penn State's going to score 37 points, you're probably like, okay, they're going to win the game because their defense is that good. But Oregon was able to execute offensively throughout the game. They were able to score points throughout. The end of the first half was incredible because they had the interception with Dante Manning to go up by that score. Sure, there was that little lull that led Penn State to getting back-to-back touchdowns on back-to-back drives, and the defense kind of sputtered a little bit. At the end of the day, you're up by 7. You get the ball back in the second half. You win the third quarter, and Oregon wins the game 45-37. That to say, like, Penn State has some legit players offensively. Sure, Drew Aller may not be the best quarterback in the country. He threw 2 interceptions, including the game-sealing interception with Nico Reed. But he played probably one of his best games he's played all season. Like, he was able to connect with a lot of playmakers throughout the game. And I really think that Katron Allen and Nick Singleton, those 2 running backs are really, really good. Like, they're just like a hair behind Ashton Genty. And they did a great job throughout that game. The good news for Oregon now is because they won that game, we may talk about this a little bit later about the disadvantages of maybe potentially playing Ohio State and Tennessee compared to Penn State, who has to play 2 more games, but they might be easier games for them. At the end of the day, like, Oregon has a month to try to fix those problems. They have a month to look at the tape and figure out what did Penn State do to exploit them defensively, and how can they kind of seal that up before that big playoff game. All credit to Penn State. Tyler Warren, excellent tight end, just won the Mackey Award. A lot of playmakers all around, but Oregon was able to come through, and Penn State, good season for them. I think they played a lot better than a lot of teams thought they were. I mean, they're the number 3 ranked team in the country going into that game. I think a lot of people undervalued that, and they actually showed that they probably were a top 5 team.
Yeah. I will say, you mentioned the 2 interceptions. Those were really high-caliber interceptions by the Oregon defense. Like, I don't necessarily think they were mistakes by Aller. I think the Oregon defense just made the better play on those. That first interception for Oregon, somebody's got to have a better camera angle because I still don't know how he caught that football. Like, I don't understand the physics of what just happened there. They had the high upper level shot of that, and I'm just like, they never took the time to like slow it down and show it on the broadcast. And we went through that entire game, and I was just like, where did the ball go? Like, how did it end up in his hands? I'm sure it's not nearly as complicated as it seems in my head, but I was just like, I don't understand what just happened there.
It's an egg-shaped ball. When he hits the hand, it can, bounce or turn certain different ways.
It
was a phenomenal interception. I think the part that also is crazy about that is watching like the cinematic recap this past week. And it was like Oregon kind of like prepared for that moment. Like Tosh Lupoy in the headset was talking about like, oh, you need to tunnel right here. You need to go right here. They knew that was the opportunity. And it just somehow paid off. Like Dante was able to cut the route and, sure, the ball was a little bit thrown behind the wide receiver. But at the end of the day, like, that was also planned, it seemed like, on Oregon's part, at least watching the cinematic recap. Phenomenal defensive play, and that just speaks to Josh Lupoy as a defensive coordinator. A little underrated. He didn't even get into the top 5 for the Broyles Award. I think that he's a top 5 assistant coach out there. You know, he's gone on and done the NFL thing, but he is a really, really good defensive coordinator. His name doesn't get fluttered around for head coaching jobs the same way that Will Stein gets kind of tossed around in there. A lot of teams are like, oh, we'd love to have Will Stein as our head coach. Josh Lupoy doesn't. He's very underrated. You know, he's kind of like what you want in a defensive coordinator. Dabo Swinney, for all those years at Clemson, he had Brent Venables. Brent Venables is a very good defensive coordinator. Eventually he took the Oklahoma job, but it took 13 years, 14 years for him to leave that defensive coordinator role. I could see this being a marriage that lasts a long time between Dan Lanning and Josh Lupoy as head coach and defensive coordinator. I really think these two got it rolling.
Yeah, they definitely do. It's been a lot of fun to see, and now we actually, you mentioned, coordinators, assistant coaches, kind of wonder what this offseason will hold for Oregon. It's always that question mark when you're a top team. Coordinators are definitely a thing that you lose often. So it'll be interesting to see how that changes things here during this offseason for the Oregon Ducks. But they are 13-0. They are the number 1 seed in the college football playoff. They were every week of that. Just incredible. And, there's a lot to be said about the structure of the college football playoffs, and we'll talk about that coming up here in our next segment. But as we start wrapping this first segment up here, Oregon, this is what keeps getting me. Look, somebody's got to win these next next 4 weeks, right?
Yep.
Somebody's got to win. So, yeah, why not Oregon? But to go 3-0 after going 13-0, finish the season 16-0. I don't know about you. They may be the favorites by the odd makers. They may be the number 1 seed, whatever it is. But, man, whenever I think about going 16-0, that is crazy.
It is.
And it is not an easy feat to do as the Oregon Ducks look to try and make a run to their first ever national championship.
In college football, it's tough. It's never happened. I think Clemson was the first 15-0, and this is the first time where you could have a 16-0 team because you have the extended playoff and whatnot. But 16-0 is a lot of games. Not many NFL teams have done it.
No.
It's like each year the 72 Dolphins crack open the champagne when an NFL team loses, and they get to celebrate being the only undefeated team in NFL history to go all the way. The Patriots were close.
Yeah.
Patriots were close. Giants were in their way. But 16-0 in college football is tough, tough. You can't build a roster the same way. And maybe Oregon has that kind of built roster. Maybe you can build a roster that same way as an NFL type of roster because of the current state of college football. And, with Oregon in their depth, it kind of feels like they're there. They have that kind of depth, and they're able to win many different ways. Oregon's won in shootouts. Oregon's won in slugfests. Oregon's won dominating. Oregon's won in close games. Oregon's won because of special teams. They've done it every single way.
All 3 phases, all different types of games. I mean, that's a really good point, I would think, to me. And I think what also, look, I think Dan Lanning doesn't like to credit luck on things. But I think you also have to acknowledge the fact that there's been he's built a roster that is deep, but also you're kind of almost lucky in a sense that you haven't had massive injuries that have taken a bunch of guys off the field. You haven't had.
You lost Tez Johnson for a few weeks.
There's
and that
been
was a
injuries.
Big injury.
There's been injuries, but there's been one guy. Terrence Ferguson was out for a little while. Offensive line has had some dings and bumps, and maybe a guy missed a timer here or there, but it hasn't been widespread. I mean, look at Oregon State. Their defense was just decimated, and they were playing a lot of guys that were expected to be role players. There is an element of luck to any sports season, no matter what you're doing, to get to where you are.
That's a good question. Do you think that it's luck if you stay healthy?
I mean, I'm sure there's an element of preparation. There's an element of, planning for it. Just like game planning for an opponent. You've got a game plan for trying to keep your players healthy throughout a season. They practice a certain way. They only do so much hitting. Like some teams will do that. They'll tackle only one day a week, or they, once the season gets underway, they limit how much you actually have in the physicalness. There's the staff on the team that does, strength training, stretching, the recovery time. All that stuff goes in towards making sure your guys stay healthy. But what does it take? One offensive lineman stepping on a quarterback's foot when he's trying to drop back, and suddenly that quarterback's got a broken toe that he can't plant and throw.
Or you got Aiden O'Connell going backwards, falling backwards, and putting up a Hail Mary shot to Brock Bowers in the end zone last week.
I mean, you've got that. I mean, that's an ounce of luck, I would think, on that whole, that could have gone.
No. But my point is, too, is like, I understand that, like, sure, there is those, like, unlucky circumstances where, like, a guy steps on a guy's foot. But, like, with Oregon State and the amount of injuries they had this year, would you just say that Oregon State's an unlucky team, or would you say that maybe it's a strength and conditioning problem with the way that their program's kind of being run right now?
I would say it's a mixture. I think that, there's going to be an amount of some sort of combination between the two. Because, I mean, you can do everything right. Like we were just saying, like, you could do everything right. Their strength and conditioning, their medical team, all of that could be 100% best team in the country when it comes to that. All it takes is a defender blocking an offensive lineman on a tackle, and then he rolls into somebody's ankle or rolls into one of his teammates. That's just kind of unlike. This is a physical game that just sometimes stuff happens.
Yeah, you got Bo Nix running up the middle against Washington a couple of years ago and twists his ankle, and he's not 100%.
I mean, ask Oregon Duck fans from, Dennis Dixon, a non-contact play just goes and his knee just gives out. I mean, it's just unlucky that the human body can sometimes only sustain so much that any training staff is not going to be able to make your PCL so much better to be able to then hold up to the rigors of what is the sport of football. So I think there is an element of luck when it does come to that. Now, it's not. I think that it's not all based on that, but there is that element in that conversation. So right now, the Oregon Ducks, they're the number 1 seed in the college football playoff. You would think that was
a good thing.
A good thing, but maybe it's not. We'll talk about the college football playoff bracket. We obviously knew this going into it, kind of what the layout might be if Oregon won that Big Ten championship. There's plenty of people that were arguing it would have been better to lose that game. We'll take a look at the matchups. We'll take a look at that conversation. It's been one that's been going on all week long. What changes might be needed? What changes might be coming? We will discuss as we continue on with the Umpqua Basin Tailgate Show. Presented by our friends at BTB Moving. They've got the labor services for your moving needs. So if you've got a move coming up now, they can help you out there by helping you move from point A to point B. They're veteran-owned, affordable, they're dependable, efficient, and careful. They've got senior and veteran discounts available. So book now at 541-315-0122 or find them on Facebook at BTB Moving. Back after this quick break with a sports update, here's Knight Jarecki.
For your Score Sports Update, I'm Knight Jarecki. Coming up today, the Roseburg Hoopers will continue their non-conference seasons. The RHS boys head to Newburgh for a battle of winless teams looking to jumpstart their season. They'll tip off at 7 p.m. The RHS girls are at home looking to build off their first win of the year as they host the Sandy Pioneers at 6:45 p.m. There's also a number of tournaments going on as well. The Douglas boys continue play in the Dayton Holiday Tournament against the Amhill Carleton. The Rogue River Classic will feature the Sutherland boys against Elmira and the Glide boys against Rogue River. Days Creek continues play in the 1A preview. The boys take on Crane while the girls face off against Nixiawi. Riddle is hosting the Cow Creek Classic. Today's game sees the Camas Valley boys face St. Paul and the girls take on the South Umpqua JV squad. The Riddle boys and girls square off with Yoncalla. In other non-league games, the Oakland Oakers take on Cresswell, South Umpqua girls host Illinois Valley, the Sutherland girls visit Riverdale, and Glendale welcomes in Alsea in boys basketball. Check out the full sports schedule online at 541radio.com. For UCC, the Umpqua Community College men's basketball team began play at home in the NWAC crossover tournament with a 68-62 upset victory against number 1 ranked Green River on Thursday. The Riverhawks led by 11 at halftime and finished the game strong after the Gators rallied to tie the game with 7.5 minutes to play. Bowen Davies had 20 points, 20 rebounds, and 7 block shots to lead the UCC men. The Riverhawks will continue the crossover tourney with a match against Whatcom tonight at 6 p.m. The Umpqua women's team has been out of action for a while, but the Riverhawks will put their 3-0 record on the line as they begin play in the Shoreline crossover tournament in Washington. The number 2 ranked UCC team will face off against number 3 Walla Walla. That game gets underway at 5 p.m.
Every year, millions of pets go missing, leaving families heartbroken. If you lose or find a pet, Love Lost is here to help. Our free, easy-to-use platform uses photo matching technology across multiple media platforms to bring lost pets home. Just upload a photo and quickly search the largest national lost and found pet database. Let's unite to reunite, because every lost pet deserves to find their way home. Register today at lovelost.com.
Whether it's across town or across the state, moving is always a chore. So let BTB Moving help with your next move. BTB Moving is a labor-only company offering statewide services such as packing and unpacking, loading and unloading, piano moving, cleaning services, and 24-hour emergency services. BTB Moving is an affordable, veteran-owned company here to help with your next move. Call 541-315-0122 or find BTB Moving on Facebook. That's BTB Moving for all your moving needs.
Fridays are loaded with football this fall on The Score, and you're listening to the Umpqua Basin Tailgate Show.
Friday's not just limited to the fall for our football conversations here on The Score. It is the Umpqua Basin Tailgate Show here from the Score Sports Den.
Well, like, you know, in Canada, we have like a saying that, like, you know, it's either construction season or non-construction season. In America, I think it's either football season or it's non-football season. Those are the only two. Because right now, like, you could say, like, oh, it's fall weather. No, it's football weather. It's football weather right now.
Yeah. And, I mean, technically, I think it's still not officially winter until, like, the 21st, maybe?
21st of December. I think that's, like, when the official date
official,
is.
like, meteorological winter.
Is that a word?
Sure, it is now. Welcome back in, everybody. It's great to have you with us here. So the college football playoffs, we got this week off, and then next week things get started. That'll be your first round games with games being played on college campuses. Really excited to see that and all the excitement around that. But
do you see the weather?
I have not. We'll get let's get to that here in a second. But first and foremost, I wanted to share this. The college football playoff, there's been a lot of griping about the first one, that there were some unintended consequences with the way things were structured. And, you know, what might be some of the changes that go along with how this continues to evolve now that we have one in not just theoretical, but in practice. We've got a college football playoff about to get started, and there's definitely some areas that need some adjustments. Head coach of the Oregon Ducks, Dan Lanning, was on with Greg McElroy on his podcast here recently.
Ideally, in my mind, what would look great for the playoff is if we didn't have such a long break between games. I think it's great for recovery. I think that's awesome. But if everybody faces the same challenge, I think it's really weird that the championship game is in the middle of January and school's already started and newcomers have moved in. I just don't think any of it lines up with our map. In my mind, the championship game would be unbelievable if that was on the 1st, right, December or January 1st. That's when the championship game was played. And really the teams that have positioned themselves have home games all the way up until that game. You know, that would make a lot of sense to me. But I think there's a lot of Bulls that would be really frustrated with that.
That it was Dan Lanning again on the, I think, Always College Football podcast hosted by Greg McElroy. I mean, I love Dan's thinking. It's never going to happen. There's too many dollars and cents made up in all these bowl games it's just not going to change, at least not anytime soon.
Well, and
but
also
I love his ideas.
You also got to factor in, like, travel. Like, you know, right around this time of year, I know that, like, in Penn State, right, and Indiana as well. They have graduation coming up because they're on like the semester system and people have like a winter graduation and whatnot. And those hotels have been booked up for months and months ahead for graduation. And so trying to fit like, multiple media members and college football teams and staff to come in, and you might have a situation where like, a team's Oregon's playing, but like they're staying in Portland or Vancouver, Washington.
It's almost like schools getting in the way of college football. What the heck?
Yeah.
Like, come on. I mean, what the? Why are we worried about graduation? We got college football playoff games to get to.
Who is it? Was it Dwayne Haskins back in the day? Or he had like the tweet that was like, I didn't come here to play school.
Yeah, I remember that quote. So Dan Lanning said, too long of a layoff. That, and I think it might have been, he was on with Colin Cowherd yesterday. And he got asked about that and that, would you prefer to be playing? I think he kind of danced around it. Dan's a master at not answering questions and kind of just staying on brand and on focus here. But, I agree. I think there is a reason, and obviously it is something that's in the back of Dan Lanning's mind. He brought it up with Greg McElroy there, that Oregon's not going to play. Like, this is like almost like I almost wondered if, like, they, after the Big Ten championship game, like, take a break, find some way, and Dan's a master at doing this, find some way to convince the kids, your season's done, it's time now to regroup, we go back to camp, and coming up in 3 weeks, we kick off a whole new season. Like, because that's basically what it is. They got 3 weeks to prepare for the start of the
mentality.
Start for the playoffs. And so it is a huge layoff here for the Ducks, and you really got to find the way. And again, I trust Dan Lanning. He has done it all season. We've seen it in the cinematic recaps. He is a master motivator, and I think he will find a way to get these guys kind of locked in on what this schedule is and how they approach it going over the next 3 weeks to be prepared for either Tennessee or Ohio State when their quarterfinal matchup kicks off.
I think that he kind of likes it this way. The way that this is kind of shaken up, because the way that this could go is facing off against Ohio State at the Rose Bowl, then against Texas in Arlington, Texas, and then against Georgia in Georgia. And yes, it's like 3 games, and that's a gauntlet of schedule. But there's part of me that's like, Dan Lanning is such a psychopath that he wants this. Like, he's like, yeah, bring it on. Like, they're gonna make excuses no matter what. Like, Oregon is not a blue blood yet. Right? They're recruiting like a blue blood, but they don't have the rich history. Oregon's never won a national championship. We were talking about it the other day about going to Matthew Knight Arena, and you look up in the rafters and it's just the 1939 national championship for basketball. That's the last time that a non-track and field team won a national championship at Oregon, unless you want to count acrobatics and tumbling in the NCAA for the first 4 years. But other than that, like, Oregon hasn't won a national championship in football ever. Basketball one time in the 1930s. Like, this means a lot. And when Oregon wins their national championship, there's going to be people saying, oh, well, this, and this. There's these excuses.
This is why they won.
It's a Mickey Mouse championship. Same thing as, like, the Dodgers winning in 2020. We clown the Dodgers Mickey Mouse championship. You only had a 60-game regular season. They win the World Series this year. Fine. The Dodgers finally had like a legit national championship, whatever. If Oregon goes on the run, goes 16-0, wins against Texas in Texas, and wins against Georgia in Georgia for the national championship, plus beats Ohio State again or Tennessee, either of those teams are very good, there's no debate. Like, this may be one of the best college football teams of all time. And there's part of me that just knows Dan Lanning that's like, yeah, he wants that. He wants that glory. He wants to use that for recruiting. He wants to show people, hey, you can do everything at Oregon.
Yeah.
And if you come here and you play hard and you're a part of this program, you're going to win big games and you can compete against anybody no matter what. And so, yes, this format, it's a little bit unfavorable. It'd be cool, honestly, if there was more home games. Like, I'm a little jealous. Like, Penn State's getting to host a college football playoff game.
How fun would it be to have a game at Autzen?
It'd be incredible. It would be incredible. They're getting excited for it right now at Penn State. Like, they're releasing, like, college football playoff merch, and, they have the whiteout stuff happening, and it's like, man, there's part of me that's it's sad that Oregon gets robbed of that opportunity. I think the quarterfinals should at least be part of that too. Like, I understand that there's big bowl games, and the Rose Bowl is making a lot of money for people to you have to travel to, Pasadena and whatnot. But at the end of the day, like, I think that even if you're the number 1 seed, it sucks that you don't get to host a playoff game, but the number 5 seed does. Mm-hmm. You should be able to host a playoff game.
Yeah.
The FCS does it too. The FCS does the you host all the way up until the championship.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the format you need to move to.
It's worked at that level for so long.
Yeah.
I think the bowl game system is what is holding back college football from evolving their postseason structure. I mean, we've seen some of the breakthrough. It's just going to continue to take time before it really continues to go.
Knowing Oregon's weather, do you think that if Oregon hosted a college football playoff game, it would be like that Cal game from years ago?
Where it was just raining it was just an absolute downpour. I do remember that. I was at that game in the press box, thank goodness. Odds are likely. I mean, I guess not this week, but next week would be the first round. If Oregon had been hosting a game next week, I mean, today is miserable outside. It's wet and cold, and I don't think they're expecting any snow in Eugene, but I mean, it's going to feel like it could be possible, I would imagine, if you were trying to play.
So this is from Josh Pate earlier on the weather conditions for the college football playoff games. Kickoff temp for Indiana at Notre Dame, upper 20s. Light chance of snow.
That is the game that is 1 week from today, next Friday, the first round game, number 10 Indiana at number 7 Notre Dame, South Bend, Indiana.
Chance of light snow and upper 20s.
That game, you know what? Are you a Parks and Rec fan?
No.
Okay.
I probably would like the show. I've seen clips of it. I like The Office. People tell me that I would love Parks and Rec. I just haven't watched it.
That's the Little Sebastian Bowl right there, which was the miniature horse that they were all in love with in that, because that show takes place in Indiana.
Yeah.
So.
Is that like a thing?
I saw that, the Little Sebastian. I don't know why that's a thing in the show, but it was like the mascot of the town. Like, everybody was the most beloved creature in town. Little Sebastian, just this little miniature horse that just everybody loved. Like, it was a sacred icon.
Is it just like the town, or is this like for Indiana at Notre Dame?
No, it was just like the town of God, what was it? Patani? No, something like that.
Petawak or something?
No, it was like Patani or something. God dang, I'm sad I'm not remembering the town name, but I think it's just some made up town, and they had this made up thing of.
Well, can we get enough momentum that we can get a Little Sebastian trophy for the Indiana at Notre Dame rivalry?
I'm
just
sure
like the
$5
bits of broken chair trophy.
I wouldn't be surprised if somebody's planning it out already online. I saw it, and it was Ron Swanson approved. It had the stamp of approval.
Anyway, so that's the weather for next Friday's game.
I mean, go figure.
SMU at Penn State. Kickoff temps. Mid-20s, conditions cloudy.
And that is a noon kickoff.
That was a noon kickoff.
That'll be nice.
State College, Pennsylvania. Then you got the warmest game.
Texas.
Clemson at Texas. Kickoff temps, mid to upper 50s.
Oh, wait, that's a noon. That was a noon Eastern time. So that's a 9 a.m. here on the West Coast for Penn State and SMU in that game.
Go figure. The Big Ten team gets a 9 a.m. kickoff.
Yeah, right? But, I mean, I guess that's a noon kickoff at Penn State.
Yeah, so it's going to warm up a little bit in that game, but still mid-20s
You got
in the
Texas.
morning.
What was Texas then?
Mid to upper 50s.
Oh, I mean, that's not bad.
But for Texas, that's cold.
Yeah, that is kind of cold.
And then you got Tennessee at Ohio State. Kickoff temps, low 20s, partly cloudy.
Yeesh. At Ohio State.
At Ohio State.
5 o'clock kickoff. That game's going to get cold. Yeah. I don't care who you are. Playing in those conditions is just – I mean, whether you're from a warm weather state or a cold weather state, it's going to be cold.
It is cold. But it's football weather. You know, it's so funny, too, because, like, you know, I went to the Grey Cup this year, and it was in B.C. at the Big Dome. The B.C. plays. And there was a lot of Canadians that were like, this game should always be played outside. We deserve the 3 feet of snow. Like, we deserve it. This is football weather. And, you know, there's part of the population that's like, heck yeah, Tennessee playing in 20 degrees. Like, yeah, we need that.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, that's football weather. Who doesn't love that? Like, the Bills might be playing in like a foot of snow this week or whatever.
And they did just not that long ago, too. Like, I agree. I love watching that game. I do wonder like, look, I played through high school football, right? Like, that's the highest level I played in. Stakes are a lot lower at that point.
Yep.
I always would have loved to have played in a snow game. But when you are playing and you're getting paid millions of dollars to play the game, and there's a lot riding on the line between postseason checks and all your legacy and all of that kind of stuff, like, would you not want to play in just the most optimal conditions? Like, I wonder how much I wonder how much professional players, or maybe college football, in the postseason where all the stakes are on the line, how much these guys really enjoy having to play in the conditions.
Actually, what's really funny? Did you see the thing from Terrion Arnold, the Lions rookie cornerback?
No, I didn't see this.
So he was like driving home, and it was like snowing really hard, and he was like, "I ain't supposed to be here. I'm from Florida." he's like, I can't even pump my own gas right now. It's frozen.
Oh my
He's like trying to get home, and he's like, "It's snowing so hard. I just pulled off to the side of the road. Like, I'm waiting for it to die down. Don't drive."
It can get bad. And when you're from a warm weather state, you're not used to that. And these guys go all over the place.
Well, yeah, and that's the thing. You don't get to decide where you go play professional football.
You don't get to pick which, all the rest of us get to say, you know what, I think living in Florida would be nice. The weather's always nice. Arizona, sure, yeah, the weather's I'm okay living in Wisconsin in the middle of December. Like, sure, why not? I'm okay with it, but you're an NFL player. You got drafted by the Green Bay Packers. Have fun in the winter.
Yeah, right?
Have fun in that postseason run. The college football playoff, obviously we're talking the weather there and the conditions for all of that. But the concerns, not the weather necessarily, the concerns more about just where this goes forward. I mean, do you want to see reseeding after each round of the playoffs?
Yes. Like, unequivocally, yes. Like,
I saw that as the fix that everybody's saying, like, this needs to be the fix for the college football playoff structure. But I did see the one kind of counteracting to that was that to go week to week like that leaves very little time to prepare on what the next week is going to be.
So here's my point is that, like, I think that it should be reseeded after the first round. After that, then it can be,
I mean, you're down to 4 teams at that point. Yeah.
Like, at that point, you can get around it. I honestly, a lot of people are coming after, like, the conference championship thing about the automatic qualifier. I like that. Like, and maybe that's just me as, like, a former Pac-12 fan, seeing our conference just absolutely screwed year in and year out. Because it was like every year, it was like Oregon might have been like 11-2 and like a national or like a Pac-12 champion. Like the year they went to the Rose Bowl in 2019 and beat Wisconsin with Justin Herbert. Like, that was a really good Oregon team. They just lost to Arizona State late in the year. Like, people would make the case, oh, well, Oregon doesn't deserve to be in because they lost to Arizona State. Screw that. Like, if you win your conference, it's a big deal. Yeah. And I think that, like, sometimes you may get beat up in a season because there's a lot of good teams. The Pac-12 had a lot of good teams. Heck, 2 of those 4 were Pac-12 teams. Guess what they did this year? Yeah. They went to a new conference, and what did they do? They won their conference.
Yeah.
And so, I'm tired of this, oh, well, only the best teams are in the SEC. Who cares? There's good football teams across the country. There's good conferences throughout. Sure, maybe the SEC has, like, a bigger depth, but at the end of the day, like, a Big 12 conference still produces a lot of good teams and a lot of good players. If you look at, like, the top players in the NFL right now, not all of them are SEC players. I'll tell you that. There's a lot coming from the Big 10. There's a lot coming from the Big 12. Patrick Mahomes, he went to Texas Tech. Is Texas Tech one of the top teams in the Big 12? No, but they're, like, kind of in the mid to upper tier, and they're competing year in, year out. I like the automatic qualifier because I think that conferences are severely underrated outside of the Big 10 and SEC, specifically the SEC. Like, a 3-loss Alabama shouldn't be in, and there's a case that many people are saying that they should be in, and I just firmly disagree.
Yeah, I think I'm really intrigued to see how this all continues to affect college football is what does this do for scheduling going forward? I mean, we heard Nick Saban talking about, well, maybe we don't need to – I rewatched some of the final college football selection show on ESPN, and they've got Herb Street and Saban and all their guys there and analyzing all of this. And Nick Saban, I mean, he probably was in Alabama while he was doing this, but here at Alabama, we do. It's like you don't work for Alabama anymore. You're working for ESPN now, man.
Yeah.
This is not the royal we here.
It's so much television contracts. Maybe that's something we can do on the other half of this break.
Yeah,
but
I mean,
it's like, it's a little tough. There is a lot of people that are just so narrow-minded in the media towards the SEC, and how much of that is the networks kind of feeding them that.
Oh, that's for sure.
And I saw a thing today, and I was watching Josh Pate's video, and he was talking about SEC bias and the allegations, and he's like, well, look at the top 10 teams that have been the most watched teams in the country this year. 8 of the top 10 are SEC teams. It's like, yeah, because 8 of the top 10 teams in the SEC, they get put on national television every single week.
Yeah.
Like, of course they're going to be the most watched games because they're the most accessible. They're not on the friggin' CW. That's the reason why they're the part of the top 10.
They weren't hidden on the Pac-12 network back in the day. Agreed. We do need to get to the break, and so we will do that now. When we come back, we'll continue to talk about the college football playoff structure and maybe some of the fixes, what is coming up, what the future may hold. But, boy, everything aside, really excited about what's coming up with this college football playoff. We'll talk more about it when we come back. It's the Umpqua Basin Tailgate Show presented by BTB Moving, coming at you here on The Score with more news, sports, and weather. Here's Knight Jarecki.
Good afternoon. With the Score News Update, I'm Knight Jarecki. Coastal highway travel between Oregon and California resumed last night. An update from the Oregon Department of Transportation said the Redwood Highway, US 199, reopened on the California side of the border south of Gasquet. Motorists should expect one-way travel and delays. Crews are on site to ensure safe passage through the area. A 13-mile section of the highway had been closed for hours after a rock slide blocked travel. Go to the Caltrans website for updates, which we have linked on this story at 541radio.com. Detectives with the Douglas Interagency Narcotics Team brought a months-long investigation to a close on Wednesday evening. Denton Commander Lieutenant Rick MacArthur said the investigation began in October when it was alleged that the 35-year-old David Ralston was illegally possessing, producing, and selling firearms from his residence in the 400 block of Division Street in Drain. In sports, coming up today in prep sports, the Roseburg Hoopers will continue their non-conference season. The RHS boys head to Newburgh for a battle of winless teams looking to jumpstart their season. They'll tip off at 7 p.m. The RHS girls are at home looking to build off their first win of the year as they host the Sandy Pioneers at 6:45 p.m. We also got a number of tournaments and non-league games happening as well today. Check out the full sports schedule online at 541radio.com. Taking a look at the weather, tonight going to be some rain with a low around 42 degrees. Tomorrow, a 90% chance of rain, a high near 46 degrees, and a low around 36 degrees. On Sunday, a 10% chance of rain, partly sunny with a high near 48 degrees, and a low around 39 degrees. News and information is available 24/7 at 541radio.com. I'm Knight Jarecki here on The Score.
The spirit of the holidays should be a vision of warmth and comfort. For some of our friends and neighbors in Douglas County, the hopes and dreams of the season have been drastically changed. You can help when you wish upon a star. Road Credit Union and The Score would like to add your name to the list of people who see a tough situation and want to help. We're looking for people who will take a few minutes and tell us a story of a Douglas County area individual or family in need. Road Credit Union and The Score's Wish Upon a Star program can make something special happen in what may seem like an impossible situation. If you know someone who truly needs help, nominate them at 541radio.com or send a letter to Wish Upon a Star, 345 Northeast Winchester Street in Roseburg, 97470. You can also drop a letter off at Road Credit Union on Northeast Stevens or on Garden Valley. Please be sure to include as much detail as possible and daytime contact information. Thank you for making Wish Upon a Star a special part of our holiday celebration. Happy holidays from Road Credit Union and The Score, 92.3 FM and 1490 AM.
Chilling at the tailgate party, getting ready for the games. This is the Umpqua Basin Tailgate Show, presented by BTB Moving.
Wrapping up hour number one. It always goes by really quick, by the way.
Yeah.
You can join us here on the program. Give us a call at 541-673-5551. That is 673-5551. Share your thoughts on Oregon's chances in the college football playoff. That'll be coming up here. They've got that first round bye January 1st. The Rose Bowl, Oregon taking on the winner of Ohio State and Tennessee.
Yeah.
Looking forward to that.
This is funny. So Josh Payton, after the kickoff temps, he goes, forecast for the rest of the tournament, temp 72, conditions corporate.
Yeah, getting out of the hosting at college campuses. Now we get it on all the nice spots, which Knight and I got into it a little bit earlier. We will talk about the college bowl system and the future of college bowls in hour number 2 here. We might get a little fired up, so maybe we need to put a note on the door to all the surrounding folks in their cubicles and studios to get ready. Things are going to get heated here in the Score Sports Den. I've had some good shouting matches in here through the years when it comes to doing the sports talk show. So let's see, where do we leave off? We were talking about just the SEC bias and some of the thoughts. So I saw the headline there from Josh Pace. Was he trying to make the statement that there's not an SEC bias?
No, he was trying to make the case that he doesn't fully have an SEC bias.
Oh, that he doesn't. Okay.
Yeah.
And I don't feel as if he probably does as much as others.
No, he gives a lot of credit to the SEC. But also, he explained, I watched the video today, and he was just kind of explaining how, he grew up watching SEC football, same thing that we played on our show last week. A lot of the top recruiting classes go to the SEC. Over 50% of the top 100 players went to the SEC.
Yeah.
There's that. He was talking about, again, the television rights, like the 8 of the top 10 teams, were in the SEC. But at the same time, it's like Kentucky's in there.
Yeah.
Is Kentucky one of the top 8 programs in the country? I mean, they have the most eyes on them. They have that many eyes. My thought is that, you can't make the argument that, SEC football is the best football because more people are watching it. It's because it's more accessible. We were talking about before this break, of course it's more accessible because ESPN designs the contract rights. They have the time slots. They have not only ESPN, but they have ABC and ESPN2 and ESPN Plus and the SEC network. And that's a lot of access that you can give to the masses. Mm-hmm. And so what that does is they're able to slot their teams multiple times throughout the day on major networks, ESPN, ESPN2, ABC, SEC network. And so, no duh, they're getting more views because it's just more accessible.
Yeah.
Almost anybody with a basic cable package is probably going to have ESPN and ABC. I mean, you don't even have to have a basic cable package to have ABC. You could go to the store and get an antenna or contact the Portland Trailblazers or whoever it may be to watch an SEC game on ABC.
Yes, absolutely. And look, if you're a sports fan, you pretty much have to have access to ESPN one way or the other. Otherwise, you're just going to miss out on too much. I don't have cable, but I've got the antenna. I watch ABC games and Monday Night Football on ABC when they play it on there. I've got an access to a streaming package to be able to watch ESPN on there to get the games there. I mean, you have to have it.
Exactly. But, as a sports fan, you're not accustomed to being like, hey, let's flip over to the CW.
Yeah, that. Or, if your teams are on the Pac-12 network, well, it wasn't widely distributed. If your games are on the Big Ten network, I think it's better than the Pac-12 network, but still, you have to look and seek out the Big Ten network and find it and make sure that your cable package has it. You don't really have to do that with ESPN.
Yeah, and the SEC network, too. I mean, it's some packages, it's like an add-on, but some packages, it's just a part of, the basic package because it's attached to ESPN. Mm-hmm. And even if you just have the ESPN Plus app or whatever, ESPN Plus or the ESPN app, you can watch SEC games on the ESPN app. And it's just way more accessible.
And the SEC app, what games for Alabama are on the SEC network? It's they're probably their game against Charleston,
Mercer,
Sisters of the Poor. That's where Alabama goes. That. Other than that, they're on ABC. They're on ESPN. They're not relegated to that other streaming network or streaming or second, third, fourth network.
And so there's just part of the bias, and some of that is and I think Oregon has a little bit of this too. Is that in those southern states, there's no NFL team in Alabama. There's no NFL team in Mississippi. Sure, like, you know, there's a supposed NFL team in Atlanta playing that kind of is like playing week in, week out. But the Georgia Bulldogs are like the team in the state of Georgia this time of year. Those states, it just quote unquote means more because in those environments, they don't have anything else to look forward to. It's year-round college football. It's the same thing at Nebraska. Nebraska has that too. I think one of the biggest stories that I remember about just like Nebraska fans is that Adrian Martinez, the former Nebraska quarterback, everywhere he walked around town, he would walk around and people would want to come up to him, sign autographs, talk to him all the time. He went to K-State for a visit right before he transferred there. Nobody approached him once. Not once.
Nobody had any clue who he was.
In that environment, people just know about it. They live, breathe, die Nebraska football, Georgia football, Alabama football. Like, it just means a little bit more.
It does. It does. We've got a whole second hour coming up for you here. We've got more of the college football playoffs. We've got college bowl games getting started this weekend. Army-Navy coming up. America's game. And Heisman Trophy. We can get into that as well as Dylan Gabriel from Oregon going to be there in New York. He's there in New York right now for the celebration presentation coming up tomorrow. Hour number 2 of the Umpqua Basin Tailgate Show presented by BTB Moving coming up in just a few moments.
For your Score Sports update, I'm Nate Jarecki. Coming up today, the Roseburg Hoopers will continue their non-conference seasons. The RHS boys head to Newburgh for a battle of winless teams looking to jumpstart their season. They'll tip off at 7 p.m. The RHS girls are at home looking to build off their first win of the year as they host the Sandy Pioneers at 6:45 p.m. There's also a number of tournaments going on as well. The Douglas boys continue play in the Dayton Holiday Tournament against the Amhill Carleton. The Rogue River Classic will feature the Sutherland boys against Elmira and the Glide boys against Rogue River. Days Creek continues play in the 1A preview. The boys take on Crane while the girls face off against Nixiawi. Riddle is hosting the Cow Creek Classic. Today's game sees the Camas Valley boys face St. Paul and the girls take on the South Umpqua JV squad. The Riddle boys and girls square off with Yoncalla. In other non-league games, the Oakland Oakers take on Cresswell, South Umpqua girls host Illinois Valley, the Sutherland girls visit Riverdale, and Glendale welcomes in Ulsey in boys basketball. Check out the full sports schedule online at 541radio.com. For UCC, the Umpqua Community College men's basketball team began play at home in the NWAC crossover tournament with a 68-62 upset victory against number 1 ranked Green River on Thursday. The Riverhawks led by 11 at halftime and finished the game strong after the Gators rallied to tie the game with 7.5 minutes to play. Bowen Davies had 20 points, 20 rebounds, and 7 block shots to lead the UCC men. The Riverhawks will continue the crossover tourney with a match against Whatcom tonight at 6 p.m. The Umpqua women's team has been out of action for a while, but the Riverhawks will put their 3-0 record on the line as they begin play in the Shoreline crossover tournament in Washington. The number 2 ranked UCC team will face off against number 3 Walla Walla. That game gets underway at 5 p.m.
Whether it's across town or across the state, moving is always a chore. So let BTB Moving help with your next move. BTB Moving is a labor-only company offering statewide services such as packing and unpacking, loading and unloading, piano moving, cleaning services, and 24-hour emergency services. BTB Moving is an affordable, veteran-owned company here to help with your next move. Call 541-315-0122 or find BTB Moving on Facebook. That's BTB Moving for all your moving needs.
Los accidentes a veces fatales con vehículos intrusos y peatones en las vías del tren transforman la vida de operadores de tren, pasajeros, familias y socorristas. Debemos interactuar de forma segura con las vías del tren y estar siempre alerta en los cruces. Si las barreras han sido bajadas, no atravieses la vía, no camines al lado ni sobre las vías. La intrusión es peligrosa e ilegal. No arriesgues tu vida. Mantente seguro. Para más información visita metrolinktrains.com/mantente-a-salvo.
Stop by this week for farm-tastic deals at your local Coastal.
Coastal Farm and Ranch, just what your holidays need.
From Wednesday, December 11th through Tuesday, December 17th, it's ho, ho, ho and a bale full of fun with $100 off the Coleman Power Sports B200 mini bike. Plus, find amazing value in our tool department. Save $90 off the Milwaukee 3/8-inch 56-piece ratchet and socket set, and save $150 off the Milwaukee half-inch impact wrench kit. Give that special woman in your life a meaningful and beautifully crafted gift with 25% off jewelry, including Montana Silversmiths and Double S. Find all your project and holiday supplies for less this week at Coastal.
Coastal Farm and Ranch, just what your holidays need.
Shop now for a country Christmas full of savings at Coastal.
Local sports talk in Douglas County. It's the Umpqua Basin Tailgate Show, presented by BTB Moving. Fridays, noon to 2, right here on 92.3 FM KWRZ Canyonville and 1490 AM KSKR Roseburg. We're The Score, Douglas County's home for sports. It's the Umpqua Basin Tailgate Show, presented by BTB Moving. We're setting up shop, so pop open the cooler, pull up a seat.
Who wants to have some fun?
Let's talk some pigskin.
How about if your team is going undefeated in your league? Maybe the rest of your league's not that good and you had one good team that just was able to beat up on everybody else. But now that the SEC's eating its own, oh no, it's just so deep. The league is so deep. It just drives me crazy.
Drives me crazy too.
And Feinbaum can suck on a bag of pickles.
From the Score Sports Closet, it's the Umpqua Basin Tailgate Show.
Pickles!
I'm waiting on the cease and desist letter on using that clip there on the show. Welcome back, everybody. It's the Umpqua Basin Tailgate Show here on Friday, December 13th. Happy holidays. Welcome in to the Score Sports Den. It's the Umpqua Basin Tailgate Show presented by BTB Moving. Yes.
You're from Gresham.
I am from the Portland metropolitan area.
Okay.
I mean, I spent 13 years of my formative youth in Portland, and then we moved to Gresham.
Okay.
So I don't know if I necessarily...
So you're from the Portland metropolitan area.
Yes.
Does it make you angry that the top baseball team in that city is the Pickles?
Nah, not because of my dislike of
For your
pickles.
dislike of pickles.
Nah, I just miss the Portland Beavers. That was my team.
Yeah.
You know? Then the Portland Rockies,
Yeah.
but then, I mean, they'll always be the Beavers.
Shout out Mike Parker, former voice of the Portland Beavers.
Man, those were the days. I remember going to those games as a kid. So much fun. So much fun.
That ballpark looked cool, like the old Providence Park.
Yeah, it was a great ballpark.
Yeah.
I caught a lot of foul balls there.
Really?
Yeah, had a good times.
Do you-
One time, hot dog in one hand, foul ball caught in the other.
Really?
Boom.
Oh, my gosh.
Bounce off the stairs right up to me. Bop.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, that
do you,
was good.
Do you have a record for as many like foul balls you've gotten in like a game? Do you remember that?
One would be the record.
Oh,
So,
okay. Dude, I remember like I had like a game that I went to. It was the Lancaster Jethawks, who were the Houston Astros high A affiliate back in the day.
Okay.
And I was him. Like in terms of like getting like foul balls. I think one game I got like 10 foul balls in a game. Like I was like locked in. It was like so they had
there were like 12 people at the stadium.
Maybe, but what it was is that like I was on like the third base line.
What happened was,
and there was like the seats. Like there was the seats that went down to like the field. There was probably like 15, 20 rows.
Yeah.
And then behind the seats there was like this berm where like you could like go and play on the grass as like a kid.
Yeah.
And so what did I do? I stood on the berm, and anytime the ball like went anywhere towards left field or like third base side in foul territory, I ran after it. Like I was locked in. Like it was like, you know, I came there to do two things. Number one, eat hot dogs, and number two, get foul balls. It wasn't about watching baseball. It was about getting the foul balls. And I remember getting like 10 in a game. That for sure. It's been a while since I caught a foul ball.
Oh yeah, same here.
I'll never forget. It was my birthday, and I was in Philadelphia for a Giants game. Denard Span hit a go-ahead home run in the 10th inning, but that wasn't the biggest tragedy in that game. I'd just sit down. If you're from Philly or have been to Philly, you know about Chicky and Pete's. They have these things called crab fries, which are like very seasoned fries, wrinkled fries. And then they have this thing called their cheese sauce, and it's famous, the Chickies and Pete's cheese sauce. It's a 5-cheese melted cheese sauce that you dip the fries in. I had just sat down, and a foul ball came and hit me right in the hand right when I sat down. I would have caught it, but I was so preoccupied with the food. Thankfully, it did not spill over me.
Oh, man, I expected that.
I thought that you were – I know that you were getting to that point, but I was so mad because, like, I literally sat down, and I was in the 200 level, and it came right to me, like, literally right to my seat, hit off my hand, right in front of me. The guy in front of me, like an older dude, like in his, like, 30s, got it. And I was like,
whoa. An older dude in his 30s?
Okay.
Come on.
It was my 13th birthday. Like, as a 13-year-old, that is, like, over twice my age.
You could say an adult. You don't have to say the older dude.
Okay. Well, as a 22-year-old,
well,
I feel...
Grandpa's going back to bed.
Yeah.
Oh, my
Let's
goodness.
get you to the retirement home.
Golly.
No, but, like, as a 22-year-old, I would classify somebody in their 30s as an older dude than me, you know? I would consider you older than me, Joey.
Here's a piece of advice for any of you out there that you maybe have moved into a managerial position. You're, kind of finally making your way. You're in your 40s. Don't hire someone in their 20s. It'll make you feel like the oldest freaking person in the room. Oh, my goodness.
Hey, we both watched iCarly.
This is true. I don't know if I should admit to that. Welcome back. Off the rails, hour number 2. It always gets this way. It's because we're both hungry and ready to get out for some lunch here soon. So college football bowl season kicks off this weekend. Programming note for everyone out there, Army-Navy, not a bowl game, but RV-Navy, America's game, coming up tomorrow. We'll have coverage for you right here on The Score. Tune in at 11 o'clock. Coverage from Westwood 1 will be getting underway, and we'll have Army-Navy for your listening experience coming up tomorrow. So looking forward to that.
Do you think Matt Watson is getting the team together to watch this game all together?
Is Matt Watson he's just getting giddy about this? Roseburg head football coach, by the way, Matt Watson. Loves the triple option.
Loves the triple. He posts about it on social media.
If you're following his Twitter or Instagram account, you know Roseburg football loves it.
Whenever a triple,
he's probably sitting down getting ready for this game with a sketchbook, getting ready to draw out some plays.
You know what I think
this is mandatory study session.
I think of like. Have you seen the John Gruden videos where he's like, I'm feeling nicey today? Like, do you think Matt Watson sits down and he's like, who? Like,
what do you know about football? What's your vertical? What's your 40 time? I imagine he's probably excited for this one. He's looking forward to it. And by all accounts, I haven't watched a lot of Navy and Army football this year, but by the accounts that I've been reading, Navy's kind of got the triple option with some tweaks to add in a little more passing to it. So, I mean, inspiration could be right around the corner for Roseburg football next year.
I don't have Matt Watson's number, but you need to text him and ask him if this is like his Super Bowl. Because like this feels like a game that he's like locked into.
Coach Watson, hit me up if you're listening.
Coach, if you're listening, like please, like I want to know, like what is this game look like for you? Like are you watching it from like a fan perspective or are you watching it from a coach perspective? Because I feel like as somebody that loves the triple option as much as Matt Watson loves the triple option, like this is like the game for inspiration, right? Like you know how like I don't know about you, but like for me, like when I watch a sports game, I listen to the broadcaster. I'm listening to them how they call a game and like when they feed in certain stories and how they like orchestrate entire broadcasts. Is this that for the triple option coaches across America?
Yeah.
Like, is this the game where you get the biggest inspiration? I mean, it's not even just one team. It's two teams running the triple option.
My phone lit up. I almost got excited. Oh, maybe he did text me. Oh, man.
Did he?
No, he
didn't.
Man. Kenneth Walker's out for this week, apparently. So that's not going to be great for my fantasy chances. But nonetheless.
Or Seahawks fans up here in Oregon.
Yeah. Oh, hey, look, Packers is going to be. My wife's going to like that. Might help out her Packers. So there we go.
You going to go up to that?
I actually we're like I said in hour number 1, I'm getting ready to get together with the family for our holiday. I didn't see the fact that the Packers and Seahawks were playing this weekend in time. I had the thought like, man, we should have made plans to just go as a family up to go watch Packers and Seahawks. My dad, my brother, and I did that one year. It was right around Christmas, and because my family, the holidays kind of do tend to wander. They're not always on the exact day of the designated holiday. My dad, now my brother, being firefighters, you kind of had to work within their schedules because they work every day of the week. And now with me being in radio, it kind of can get a little difficult as well because radio is on 24/7. So the holidays do tend to float in my family. And so one year I think it was a Christmas present, we went up and watched Kansas City and Seattle up there. And it was a blast going there with my dad and my brother. It would be fun to take the whole family and go and watch the Packers and Seahawks. That would have been a blast.
That would be awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, I've never been to the game there. That stadium looks incredible.
It was good. I mean, our tickets were you had to keep walking, but it is a fun stadium. It is a good place to watch a game, and that would be fun to see that one, Packers and Seahawks there. But so Army-Navy tomorrow. Also, the first bowl game is coming up tomorrow. Now, it's the HBCU. Do they call this like the HBCU championship? Is this kind of that kind of a deal?
I don't know if it's considered that. What it is, it's like there's the two HBCU conferences, and it's like the winner of the two leagues play each other in the Celebration Bowl each year.
So that's coming up tomorrow to kick things off for the College Football Bowl schedule, and then we've got also tomorrow the Salute to Veterans Bowl, South Alabama and Western Michigan meeting in Montgomery, Alabama. I posed this question earlier today, because I was thinking about this morning. Bowl season's kicking off. We've got the college football playoff has been expanded to 12 teams. I'm not going to put it – I'm going to say that there's probably a good expectation that it expands to more than just 12 at some point in the not-too-distant future. And we're seeing the importance of bowl games just continues to be – I mean, you can't argue that bowl games – we're seeing it meaning less for players. I know there might be other people it means a lot to, but for players, we've seen for years now they sit out because they're going to go to the NFL. They don't want to get hurt in a bowl game. We see they're sitting out because they're getting ready to transfer to a new school because they're in the transfer portal. These bowl games are turning into, they were exhibition games to begin with, but they used to mean something. Bragging rights, being able to, win one more game on your season. And while that may still be the case for some players, it's still the case for coaches, it's still the case for the university and the fan bases. These games are getting watered down because you're starting to see they've removed the stipulation that bowl games no longer count towards redshirt seasons. So guys that were redshirting and you were holding out, they only played 4 games in the regular season. Now they can play in these games because they don't count and you can still redshirt. I know that there's been a lot of discussion about what the future is for college football bowl games. I don't want to see them eliminated. I just think we need to almost open up the entire postseason and say, there's not necessarily a requirement to hit to 6 wins to be able to continue playing one more game on your season.
I just so firmly disagree with that. I if you win 6 games, you deserve to be in a bowl game.
For sure.
And that's the point, is that
but
there's only a certain number of bowl games. This year there was 84 teams that got into the 41 bowl games. So at that point, there's 84 teams that have reached 6 wins. So if you want to just get away with the 6-win qualifier and say, a 6-win Ohio doesn't deserve to be in over a lower seeded Oregon State.
I'm not saying deserved or earned or any of that. Leave it up to the bowls. Invite who you want. No qualifications on how many wins you have.
What's your solution? Then it just comes down to the bias, because then your big conference bias shows out. Because that. Would you rather that? Would you rather a 10-win,
Honestly, if you're going to ask me, am I going to watch the Boca Raton Bowl with James Madison, Western Kentucky? Yeah, I might flip it on for a little bit, or it might be on while I'm doing other stuff. But if it's a game that has maybe some bigger, more marquee names, yeah. For an exhibition game that has no absolute meaning to it, yeah, I might watch a game more regularly if it has more notable names and teams in it.
You would, I don't know. I just don't think that. I wouldn't want to turn on my TV and watch Maryland versus Oregon State like this now. I would way rather watch James Madison, who's had 9 wins this season, go up against Western Kentucky, who was in their championship game.
Really?
Those teams have
versus a team in the. So you're an Oregon fan. Maryland's a conference opponent. Oregon State is an in-state rival.
Yes.
Like, that game would have less meaning to you than a game for James Madison in Western Kentucky, which you know very little about.
I think the quality of play in that James Madison Western Kentucky game would be better than the quality of play in the Maryland Oregon State game.
I
think that Oregon State's defense is depleted. I think that their quarterback room is kind of bad right now. I think Maryland right now has lost their quarterback. They've lost so many players to the transfer portal. You know what's happening? James Madison, those players aren't necessarily opting out. I don't think the Western Kentucky players are opting out. I think it's a big deal for those programs to get a week off. They've earned it. They've won 6 games. They get a nice trip on the road to Florida during their December month to celebrate their season. Yeah, they deserve it more than Oregon State deserves it. And they deserve it.
That's not my argument about who deserves, and I'm not saying that we need to limit where we're at with bowl games. Look, just schedule another game. Make it, it's just an exhibition. Oregon State can just host Maryland, they're not going to get a team to fly across the country for this matchup, but like Oregon State, welcome in San Diego or San Jose or whoever, one of the schools that's not in a bowl game from here on the West Coast, and play one more game for your fans. Everybody else is getting to play them. They don't mean anything right now. Why not allow everybody to just have one more game on your schedule? Why not? That doesn't mean anything. It's an opportunity to let your fans see your team one more time.
You want to know why? Because those players are like, I don't want to get hurt in a meaningless game and ruin my career.
They play spring games. They play
spring games are a joke, an absolute joke.
But they are opportunities for coaches to continue coaching. They are opportunities for coaches to continue scouting. Look, right now you're correct. You're correct.
They're not.
There are plenty of times.
You know what the spring game is? Spring game is, hey, let's get people to come to the stadium, spend some money. Tickets are going to be free, but they're going to buy concessions. They're going to buy parking passes, whatever it may be.
It's an evaluation tool for coaches still.
Not fully. Like what you get
how many practices do you get in the spring?
I don't know.
Like 15?
You get like 20.
15 to 20, somewhere in that range.
Yeah, and you know what?
You want to go ask Dan Lanning right now. Is the spring game just a throwaway?
It's a glorified scrimmage.
It's a glorified scrimmage for sure.
They don't have to play that game at Autzen Stadium. They could play that game on the rec fields, and they could have the same evaluation. They'd be perfectly okay with that. That game, the glorified scrimmage, is not the same thing as a team playing a bowl game against another team. It still means a little bit more. You get more money. You have the opportunity. For some teams, you have 9 wins. You know what that does? If you win your bowl game, you get 10 wins on the season. I think that's pretty good. If you're a coach and you're negotiating your contract, you're like, yeah, I led my team to a 10-win season this year. Like, it means a little bit more. And it doesn't even matter. Even if your stars aren't out there, even if your quarterback opts out, or even if your running back opts out, whoever it is, you get these backups into a game at full speed. That's what the bowl game is. It's full speed. It's not like the.
That's what I'm saying.
It's not like the Pro Bowl.
That's what I'm saying. Oregon State should get the opportunity. Oregon State spring game is Oregon State against Oregon State.
I think Oregon State at this point, they're not focused on playing an extra game for no reason. They're focused on hitting the transfer portal and getting guys to Corvallis. They suck this year. Like, I'm sorry. Like, they had the Pac-2 championship. Congrats. You won that game, and sure, you got hosed with the Pac-12 awards. But at the end of the day, for Oregon State, like, your focus should be on building up for next year, not trying to wrap up this season and try to get one more win out of your squad. Because at the end of the day, your time has passed. You've left it out on the field. You've showed the country what you're about. Focus on next season.
I feel like you could say the same thing for every team in a bowl game.
No, I fully disagree.
Because at this point is getting James Madison, Western Kentucky, they're both 8-win teams.
Yeah.
Getting to 9 wins, is that so valuable?
Absolutely.
I mean, sure, there's money tied into it because it's a bowl game and there's all this corporation stuff into it.
You're not from James Madison. This is what Oregon State's going to have to go through. Absolutely. Next year, Oregon State, it's probably going to be an Oregon State versus James Madison type of matchup. That's what you got to look forward to. And if you're an Oregon State fan, like, why wouldn't you want to go all the way across the country to Florida to go spend your December? Heck, USC fans right now, they're looking at their bowl. They've had a disappointing season, but guess what? USC, where are they playing? They're playing in Las Vegas. Hey, we could go and drive to that game. Hey, is Vegas warm? Is Vegas a fun place to go? Yeah. And who are they playing? Texas A&M. Yeah. Yes, if you're a USC fan, if you're a USC player, sure, you'd want to play against Texas A&M, who was just a few minutes away, one game away from playing in the SEC championship game. It doesn't matter that USC only won like 6-7 games this season. Those fans, sure, they want to go play in that bowl game in Las Vegas. But for Oregon State next year, look forward to get ready to learn North Texas. Get ready to learn, FAU. Those are the teams that you're going to be competing against because at the end of the day, bowls have tie-ins, right? There's a reason right now that we have this random Big 12 rematch, or I guess not really a rematch, but a game in the Alamo Bowl, Colorado versus BYU, two Big 12 teams, because there was a bowl tie-in with the Pac-12 that allowed Pac-12 teams to be in the Alamo Bowl this year. Oregon State in the Pac-12, you don't have a contract moving forward. You don't. You're going to get stuck in a random game. That's what's going to happen moving forward. And so, for James Madison, sure, in your history, you haven't been to many bowl games in your life. They just got elevated to the FBS level. They were in the FCS level 5-6 years ago before Kirk Cinetti took them up and made them into a perennial FBS powerhouse that, remember last year there was discussion, should James Madison be in the playoff at some point? There was a lot of people talking about that. They get an opportunity to play Western Kentucky, a team that was in their conference championship. If you go to Western Kentucky, that's what it's about. Going to there, winning 9 games, and winning a bowl game.
I think if you take away the financial aspect of playing in a bowl game, I really, the only reason is because you've got corporations paying you to play in that game, in that spot. And if you take that away, these games are just as meaningless as any other exhibition game that could be put on the schedule at this point in the year. I don't think these schools would play in these games if it wasn't for the financial benefit to their universities, to their programs, to their bottom line of being able to then turn around and build a better program. So
it's a lot more than that. It's also about the support staff. Everybody gets to go on the bowl game trips. Everybody. Whether it be the broadcaster's wife or whether it be, the equipment manager and his girlfriend. They get to go experience what it's like to go on a trip for a vacation. It's a celebration of the season. Embrace it.
Well, you get to celebrate a 6-win season.
Yeah. That means you won half of your games.
Congratulations?
Yeah, you know how hard it is? Ask Oregon State. They weren't able to do that this year.
I know, but
why should Oregon State get rewarded with another game if they weren't even able to win half of their games?
Why should a team that won half of its games be rewarded with another game for no reason?
Because you have the opportunity to then go over 500 on the season.
Okay, and Oregon State could get a game and get a chance to go. Well, I guess they'd still be below 500.
Yeah, exactly. They don't deserve that opportunity.
I don't understand why the big draw in being one more game. Then I just. These games...
To celebrate your season, to give your players an experience.
Host a banquet. Hand out some team awards. Celebrate your season. You went 500.
You think that you giving away a trophy means a little bit more than a player getting to go to San Antonio and experience what it's like to be on the Riverwalk and, get to experience good food?
Okay, so what you're telling me that bowl games are basically just a vacation. That's all this is.
It's part of it,
Send your team on a vacation.
No.
Why do you got to have a bowl game? Why do you got to prepare for a football game?
Because the Bulls pay for it. Because it's a free vacation. Why would you want to spend all that money when you could just use that for your NIL?
Oh, I mean, I love a free vacation for sure, absolutely. But to me, that's what this is boiling down to, is that this isn't about the football.
It is about the football.
No, it's not.
Yes,
it's a free vacation. That's what you've just told me.
It's part of it.
The game you have not mentioned once. Playing in a game, you get another win. Okay,
yes.
I got 9 wins, and I got a trophy to put in the trophy case that means nothing.
No, it does mean something.
No, it doesn't.
Yes, it does.
No, it doesn't.
Yes, it does. At Boise State, you go there, and guess what? They have Fiesta Bowl trophies in there. It means a lot for those schools.
Fiesta Bowl is different.
No, it doesn't.
A Fiesta Bowl is different than the Boca Raton Bowl.
Who cares? At that level, the Boca Raton Bowl could be a big thing. If your program hasn't won anything, sure. It does mean something. It's something to add to the case. You know, we made fun of like North Texas when you went to North Texas and it was like one NCAA tournament win. Like at the end of the day,
we made fun of that.
Yes.
So you're going to go to Boise State and tell them, oh, man, Fiesta Bowl champion, congratulations.
We made fun of that because we're Oregon fans. But for North Texas, that means a lot. It does. And it means a lot for recruiting. It does. Because at the end of the day, like if you're Western Kentucky and you're recruiting against, you know, other schools in Conference USA, you want to show them.
And we told them, hey, look, we won the Boca Raton Bowl.
Yeah, that's
feeling good about things now.
That's better than like saying we didn't make a bowl game, we didn't win half of our games.
I mean, yeah, it is because that's the system we're set up in right now. But
I don't get why you're in this like playoff or bust mode. Like, are you not excited for? Are you not excited for Alabama versus Michigan?
I am. What I'm saying is, let's make it more. Open it up to. Why do we have to end college football now?
Because
just keep it going.
What I'm saying is that like your mind is so closed-minded to just the Power Four. There's other great teams out there.
I'm not.
You are.
What I'm saying is, open it up to everybody. You're telling me just limit it to the teams that won half their games.
Yes. Why is that? Like, because then you have to add more bowl games.
Have we not been talking about how great this time of year is because there's so many bowl games?
Yes, but at the end of the day, like I said, like if you open it up, those teams are not going to want to play in it because at the end of the day, they're focused on next season. If you win 1 or 2 games in your conference, if you win 1 game on the season, the last thing in your mind is like, man, I would really love a game against Vanderbilt right now. No, your mind is, hey, let's go get a quarterback in the transfer portal. Let's go build up this defense.
Let me ask you this. Have you ever done a college football bowl pick'em?
Yes.
How often do you ask yourself, which team wants to be here?
They all want to be there.
No.
Yes.
How many times has it been, here's Texas against this weak underling. The Longhorns are going to roll over these guys. Okay. They lost. Texas just didn't want to be here. How many times do you ask that yourself when you try to pick winners in bowl games?
Okay, I think let me take back this statement because there is that time like Oregon versus Oklahoma. They didn't want to be there because their coaches both left, literally just left, up and left, and all of those players opted out. My point is that like I think that there's certainly times where like, you know, these SEC teams, they get in this closed mind and say, well, it's playoff or bust. The season, if we don't, and because you spend the amount of money that you do at Texas, right? If you spend all that money at Texas and you recruit the way that you do and you're not making the playoff, sure, you're going to be a little bit disappointed and maybe your guys don't give 100% because you're just so closed-minded that you didn't win it all. Like, for you, like, would you rather the Cubs quit the season in April if they're just not going to make the playoffs?
They usually do.
Like, would you rather not watch any Cubs games?
Raiders, if your Raiders get to 9 wins on the season, you want them to play an extra? I mean, I know it's completely different.
Joey, my team has 2 wins right now. I want to see them the next 4 weeks. I think
that's my point right there. You want to see them the next 4 weeks. They've got 2 wins. Their season is trash. You want to keep seeing them.
Like, I don't
Why would Oregon State not want that too?
Joey, because after 4 weeks, I want them to focus on the draft. I don't want them to be like, hey, you know, we didn't make the playoffs this year, but let's schedule a game with the Titans. Would that be fun? No, I don't want that. I want them to focus on next season.
And why should a team that won 6 games not have the same, not just focus on next season?
Because
you won half your games. Focus on next season. Maybe you'll win 2/3 of them.
Because you get to play with your brothers one more time.
Oh, well, do you not think that Oregon State wants to have their guys playing with their brothers one more time?
Yeah, I don't. I think they're done. I think that they're entering the transfer portal, or I think they're regrouping, and it's like I think there's going to be some conversations being like, "Hey, buddy, you should hit the door."
What I'm thinking is we need to up the. It needs to be 7 games or more, or open it to everybody.
7 games? That's your threshold?
Win 7 games.
7 games? Why?
Then you've got a winning record. Maybe you've got more guys that are interested in being there. I think 6-win teams, I think you've got plenty of guys on that roster that are ready to go find, if they had a good season, they are planning on being in the next spot. They're looking to the future.
I think winning 6 games is harder than you think it is.
No, I totally get that it's hard. I I think if you're on a 6-win team that never sniffed a championship,
well, I don't get. Then why? Like again, if your threshold is 7, why are you so upset with the Boca Raton Bowl with 2 8-4 teams?
I'm not. That was just the one game I saw with 2 teams that are lesser known teams in college football.
But they're both 8-win teams.
Okay, I'm just saying why. If you're a 6-win team, your attention's the next year. And if you're a good player on a 6-win team, you're probably looking for a better offer elsewhere on a team that's got a chance to make the playoffs.
And that's sad. That's sad. That's where your mindset is at. That means that Oregon State's never going to have a 10-win team. Because
I'm not saying that.
Yes, it is. Because anytime they have any remotely good player, guess what? They're hitting the transfer portal. Oregon State, you're never going to be able to develop players ever again.
Okay,
that's what you're saying.
We need to get to a break, but my question to you as we go to this break is, do you think that Oregon State's going to be any different than what you just described?
That's a good question. And I'm saying that that's the mentality that you're having, and that's what the mentality that a lot of people in this country are having, and I'm saying that's not the right mentality if you want to preserve the sacredcy of college football.
I'm not disagreeing with you on that. I'm just trying to be a realist on where we're at with what's going on. We've gone way over, and I told you we were going to get fired up here in the booth today. I did get a message from somebody on the other side of the door that said, man, you guys are loud in there. Yeah, we are. We got to get to a break. Back with more of the Umpqua Basin Tailgate Show here on The Score.
For your Score Sports update, I'm Nate Jarecki. Coming up today, the Roseburg Hoopers will continue their non-conference seasons. The RHS boys head to Newburgh for a battle of winless teams looking to jumpstart their season. They'll tip off at 7 p.m. The RHS girls are at home looking to build off their first win of the year as they host the Sandy Pioneers at 6:45 p.m. There's also a number of tournaments going on as well. The Douglas boys continue play in the Dayton Holiday Tournament against the Hill Carleton. The Rogue River Classic will feature the Sutherland boys against Elmira and the Glide boys against Rogue River. Days Creek continues play in the 1A preview. The boys take on Crane while the girls face off against Nixiawi. Riddle is hosting the Cow Creek Classic. Today's game sees the Camas Valley boys face St. Paul and the girls take on the South Umpqua JV squad. The Riddle boys and girls square off with Yoncalla. In other non-league games, the Oakland Okers take on Cresswell, South Umpqua girls host Illinois Valley, the Sutherland girls visit Riverdale, and Glendale welcomes in Ulster in boys basketball. Check out the full sports schedule online at 541radio.com. For UCC, the Umpqua Community College men's basketball team began play at home in the NWAC crossover tournament with a 68-62 upset victory against number 1 ranked Green River on Thursday. The Riverhawks led by 11 at halftime and finished the game strong after the Gators rallied to tie the game with 7.5 minutes to play. Bowen Davies had 20 points, 20 rebounds, and 7 block shots to lead the UCC men. The Riverhawks will continue the crossover tourney with a match against Whatcom tonight at 6 p.m. The Umpqua women's team has been out of action for a while, but the Riverhawks will put their 3-0 record on the line as they begin play in the Shoreline crossover tournament in Washington. The number 2 ranked UCC team will face off against number 3 Walla Walla. That game gets underway at 5 p.m.
Whether it's across town or across the state, moving is always a chore. So let BTB Moving help with your next move. BTB Moving is a labor-only company offering statewide services such as packing and unpacking, loading and unloading, piano moving, cleaning services, and 24-hour emergency services. BTB Moving is an affordable veteran-owned company here to help with your next move. Call 541-315-0122 or find BTB Moving on Facebook. That's BTB Moving for all your moving needs.
The Feral Cat Awareness Team is a small, dedicated rescue with a big heart. They're focused on helping feral and stray cats find safe and loving homes. They rely heavily on the support of fosters and volunteers to continue their life-saving work. So please join their efforts. You can make a huge difference in the lives of these deserving animals. Visit FCAT Thrift and Cat Adoption at 60 Southeast Main Street in Winston or feralcatawareness-team.com to learn more about how you can help support their mission.
Recapping games and looking ahead to the weekend, this is the Umpqua Basin Tailgate Show, presented by BTB Moving.
or we're just in here talking a bunch of nonsense. Welcome back, everybody. It's Joey and Knight here with you on the Umpqua Basin Tailgate Show, presented by BTB Moving, providing labor services for your moving needs. They're veteran-owned, affordable, dependable, efficient, and careful. Senior and veteran discounts are available. Book now at 541-315-0122, or you can find them on Facebook at BTB Moving if you've got a move coming up in your future. All righty then. Well, they've moved some things, the college football world, out towards New York here for the weekend. The Heisman Trophy presentation will be happening tomorrow. You know what time that's going to happen?
I think it's like a 5 o'clock thing.
Yeah, I thought it was kind of an afternoon, evening thing. So, Heisman Trophy, this does not have a time listed to it. Who will win the Heisman Trophy? Son of a biscuit.
That's a very good question.
That was the question I was going to get to, but I did want to find out when it is going to happen. Well, there we go. 6 o'clock. 5 o'clock here. 6 o'clock Mountain Time. I clicked on something that was Colorado Buffaloes, which they've got a good reason to watch out there. Their guy, Travis Hunter, is the presumed favorite for this award this year. He's cleaning up on everything right now. Yeah, he really is. I think this household here is an Ashton Genty household.
Yes, absolutely. And it's so funny to me because I'm so Ashton Genty supportive. You're so Ashton Genty supportive.
Well, I guess I should say I am a Dylan Gabriel household because it would win me money. But
yes,
other than that, yes,
but
I would
we
vote
also
for Ashton
understand
Genty.
how good Ashton Genty is and what kind of season he's had. I know that Canzano's also an Ashton Genty fan.
Does that mean you need to reconsider?
Or? No. It doesn't mean that I need to reconsider. It means that, there's people on our side. But I don't know if it's just because we live in the Pacific Northwest.
Because they played Oregon and we saw him him and all that.
It's certainly part of the fact, but also at the same time, like I had this conversation with Eli, who you got to work with last week, the voice of USC women's basketball, and he was like, "Oh, I think Travis Hunter's going to win it. I think it's his." And that's the narrative that you're getting from a lot of the national media. But when you talk to people up here in the Pacific Northwest, it really feels like a lot of them are Ashton Genty fans. And I don't know if that is just because we live in the Pacific Northwest and Idaho's a part of that. But
I would wonder that too, because I do feel as if you're correct that it seems like in this general vicinity we've gotten a little bit more of a taste of what he does. I mean, I think the fact that he played at Oregon, and so the state of Oregon got to kind of see him firsthand, whether you were at the game or watching on TV, you got a good close-up look of him. And we've just heard a lot of what he's done throughout this season. And I feel like you've got Travis Hunter, who has done spectacular things. The Oregon Duck will tell you that snaps aren't a stat, but the amount of football he played this year is very impressive. But I think the best way I've heard this broken down was if you were to put Travis Hunter on a different team. Oh, wow. Okay. I guess we were being loud, and so now the next studio over is going to be loud over there too. If you put Travis Hunter on a different team, does it increase their win total? If you put Ashton Genty on another team, what does that do for their chances of winning a game? Yeah. And I feel like you put a kind of generational running back on somebody's team, I think it's going to make a huge impact on what that team does.
I think that running backs have been severely underrated. Think about what's happening in the NFL right now. We talk about the Eagles this season, and a lot of the success that the Eagles are having is because they signed a really good running back in Saquon Barkley. Mm-hmm. He's a really, really good running back, and he's changed that team. Josh Jacobs with the Packers, he's having a good year. Why? Because he's a top 5 running back in the league. It's just part of the process. And, running backs are being very undervalued. And I think in college football, running backs are huge. Huge. It can really make or break a team because running backs set your team up on the first and second down. And they can make those third downs a little bit easier. And sure, you have Travis Hunter where you throw him up the ball and sometimes he can come down with it. And it's incredible play. I mean, he's an insane athlete. But we haven't seen a player with Ashton Genty's caliber in quite some time. I mean, the closest that you got is Melvin Gordon. and he's about to break Melvin Gordon in the next game, depending on what he does. But he's really close. Like statistically, he's going to break Barry Sanders' average, or not average, but total yards and touchdowns potentially, and same with Melvin Gordon. Like this is like one of the best running efforts ever in NCAA football history, and he hasn't even played every quarter.
Yeah, he's played a lot of halves.
He's played a lot of halves.
I would argue, and I know, look, I think the voting started the start of this week, and then it gets announced on Saturday, so we know what the college football playoff picture was. Boise State's won their conference. They are in the college football playoff. They are a team with a first-round bye, and I think that is due to Ashton Jeanty. I mean, he powered that team to a 11-1 record and a first-round bye in the college football playoff. And
dude, he had 209 yards in the championship game.
Yeah. And I think that means something. I think he was more instrumental in getting Boise State into the college football playoff than, Travis Hunter. He was instrumental on that Colorado team, but you had Shedeur Sanders, who was a big part of that. They've got other offensive weapons, other wide receivers on that team that are really good as well. And that team had a chance for a moment to be in the Big 12 title game, but didn't get there. And now, they're outside the main playoff picture in the college football world right now. They're in a bowl game, and Boise State's playing for a national championship.
Yeah, and the other thing,
I think that should mean something.
It does mean something. I mean, guess what? Ashton Jeanty has, one or two more opportunities to potentially, showcase what he can do. He showcased it in the Mountain West Championship game. Travis Hunter didn't get that opportunity. Yeah. That's a big advantage for Jeanty. I think that if you voted before the championship games, you should lose your vote. That's terrible.
And apparently there's some conversation and movement about trying to move back the Heisman Trophy voting till after the playoffs.
Yeah.
And I would say, I think the award should be given to the player that had the biggest impact on their team's success, the biggest impact on college football as a whole. And I think Ashton Jeanty has done that.
Boise State's not a 3 seed without Ashton Jeanty.
No, for sure.
They're not a 3 seed. Just the season he's had. These numbers are insane. He's at 2,497 yards. He's averaging 7.3 yards per carry and has 29 touchdowns. It's ridiculous, and it shouldn't be even a debate, in my opinion.
Yeah,
I really think that what we've seen this season is as close to Barry Sanders. And how long ago was Barry Sanders playing college football?
Were
you even
a long
born?
Time. I think we looked this up at one point because I have this weird recollection that we did, and I think I was, if I remember correctly. I was a young pup at the time, but.
1988.
Yeah. So I was all of 5 years old. My brother was that was the year my brother was born. So I think that I would hope that I think we just had the AP Offensive Player of the Year. Ashton Jeanty was second in that voting.
He did win the Maxwell Award, which is given to the best offensive player in the country.
Well, that's the thing.
The Maxwell Award winner has won 8 of the last 10 Heisman trophies.
I was reading this thing that the sports books are expecting to take it on the chin with Travis Hunter possibly winning the Heisman Award because wide receivers and defensive backs don't win this award traditionally. Now he is both of them in one, but I do wonder what his chances actually. I think if he was just focused on one of them, he might be a better player, but I don't think he would have made it to New York if he was just a wide receiver or just a defensive back.
Yeah.
I think he gets there because he is this unicorn of a guy that plays both ways and plays a ton of snaps on both sides of the ball. But again, like the Duck said, just being on the field a lot doesn't necessarily mean you're the most consequential player in college football this season.
Yeah, I fully agree with that.
Yeah.
And it's just so interesting too because there was such a big debate for the longest time that it's the player that wins more deserves to be there. There's a reason why Dylan Gabriel's at the Heisman ceremony this year because
he orchestrated a team that went undefeated in the regular season.
Yeah.
And I think that should earn him a spot to be there. I don't think he's going to sniff that, but
yeah, We could go back and forth on this. I think Cam Scatterboo's had a bigger impact this season, but, teach their own. Like, he had a very good year, too. I could make the case that Cam Scatterboo could be up there in the top 2 or top 3 for the Heisman Trophy ceremony. Cam Ward's had a phenomenal year. Be interesting to see where Dylan Gabriel lands in this. And don't get me wrong, Dylan's had a great season, but it hasn't been like a Bo Nix type of season.
No, hasn't been a Marcus Mariota Heisman Trophy type of season.
Exactly. It just kind of has been like a very consistent winning season. And he's there because
it's been a Brock Purdy to the Super Bowl type of season.
Exactly. And he's there because he has led this team to an undefeated
because he's the quarterback on an undefeated team.
And so, like, for me, they've made this case for so long and set so many precedents, and now it's like, oh, well, it doesn't really matter if you win games. I don't know. My 2 cents.
It'll be interesting to see what happens tomorrow at 5 o'clock from New York City, where they announce the Heisman Trophy winner. Does the overwhelming kind of favorite in Travis Hunter take it home, or do we maybe get to see the voters maybe buck the trend a little bit?
Ashton Jeanty didn't lose that game to Oregon. The special teams did.
Yeah, absolutely. He did everything he could to win that game for Boise State.
Do you think if Boise State would have pulled off that upset, it would have been a slam dunk Ashton Jeanty?
It might have been just like at the time. Probably wouldn't have necessarily moved the needle, but if they could have won that game and then them finish an undefeated season, yeah, it might have been enough.
He's not the reason they lost that game.
Sure.
That's my 2 cents.
For sure. We've got to take a break and get back on schedule here, so we'll get back into it and wrap things up when we come back here from the Score Sports Den. This is the Umpqua Basin Tailgate Show here on The Score.
The Feral Cat Awareness Team is a small, dedicated rescue with a big heart. They're focused on helping feral and stray cats find safe and loving homes. They rely heavily on the support of fosters and volunteers to continue their life-saving work. So please join their efforts. You can make a huge difference in the lives of these deserving animals. Visit FCAT Thrift and Cat Adoption at 60 Southeast Main Street in Winston or feralcatawareness.com to learn more about how you can help support their mission.
Hi, this is Roger from Cooner Electric. In the interest of fairness, I was asked why anyone would not want an emergency whole house generator from Cooner Electric. I could not think of a single reason, so I would like the listeners to call in and give me reasons. Oh look, the lines are full. Cooner Electric, this is Roger. No thanks, we don't need an extended warranty. Cooner Electric, this is Roger. Yes, thank you, my refrigerator is running. Cooner Electric, this is Roger. I'm at the radio station, so I can ask. Kyle, Harry and Drain would like you to play Build Me Up, Buttercup, and dedicate it to Bonnie and Clyde.
Okay.
Well, all those calls and not a single reason why you should not have Cooner Electric install an emergency generator. Better call today and get on the schedule. Call Cooner Electric at 672-3333, and we'll keep your lights on for you.
The spirit of the holidays should be a vision of warmth and comfort. For some of our friends and neighbors in Douglas County, the hopes and dreams of the season have been drastically changed. You can help when you wish upon a star. Road Credit Union and The Score would like to add your name to the list of people who see a tough situation and want to help. We're looking for people who will take a few minutes and tell us a story of a Douglas County area individual or family in need. Road Credit Union and The Score's Wish Upon a Star program can make something special happen in what may seem like an impossible situation. If you know someone who truly needs help, nominate them at 541radio.com or send a letter to Wish Upon a Star, 345 Northeast Winchester Street in Roseburg, 97470. You can also drop a letter off at Road Credit Union on Northeast Stevens or on Garden Valley. Please be sure to include as much detail as possible and daytime contact information. Thank you for making Wish Upon a Star a special part of our holiday celebration. Happy holidays from Road Credit Union and The Score, 92.3 FM and 1490 AM.
Struggling to find good help? Streamline your recruitment all in one place. Lotus Media Group. With our innovative and time-tested solutions, you can reach candidates across all platforms by utilizing the power of print, radio, and digital advertising and elevate your hiring game with Indeed, Google Jobs, ZipRecruiter, and over a dozen more. Whether you're a small or large business, we have flexible pricing packages to fit any budget. Indeed, we do. Visit nrtoday.com/recruitment and let us do all the work for you.
Covering the latest buzz from the gridiron, this is the Umpqua Basin Tailgate Show, presented by BTB Moving.
Buzz from the gridiron.
You know what fires me up?
Oh, college football bowls.
Yeah.
Six win teams playing for just one more taste of victory this season.
But even more importantly, we
gotta add to that trophy case. It's so big and we've got so little in there. I need this. Sorry, what?
You got a little nicey out there, the John Gruden.
What fires you up?
That I just discovered that we got FCS playoffs tonight. Idaho versus Montana State at 6:00.
Ooh, Montana State opening game of the season next year for
Montana
the Oregon
State,
Ducks.
the number 1 team in the country in the FCS ranks, 13-0, versus Idaho, who the Ducks played in their opening game of this season. Fun game.
Yeah, that is.
Idaho versus Montana State.
That's kind of like, is that Pacific Northwest regional battle going on there? Kind of, sort of, fringe?
Here's my take on it, is that I'm okay with Western Montana being a part of the Pacific Northwest. I just don't know about central to eastern Montana.
Yeah.
And where Montana State University is in Bozeman, I think you're kind of dreading
more towards central.
Yeah. And so I'm okay with saying, University of Montana, Missoula, that's kind of Pacific Northwest, right? But I don't know about Bozeman. Would you consider Bozeman part of the Pacific Northwest? This is this is like the Pacific Northwest version. I know
they are. Bozeman is pretty close.
Yeah.
It's
close. It's
kind of like, is all of Idaho in the Pacific Northwest? If you're going to say all of Idaho's in the Pacific Northwest, then I think you got to consider Bozeman, because it is you drew the straight line of the eastern edge of Idaho kept going north, Bozeman would be on that border.
So I'd probably say the line is where the Panhandle comes down. It's kind of that line. So
okay.
A little bit east.
So the Panhandle of Idaho.
And
so that's western Idaho. Boise is
Boise's
Pacific.
Part of that Pacific Northwest. But I think that once you cross from Boise towards Twin Falls, you're kind of in that mountain range.
Yeah.
You're kind of in the Rockies,
mountains.
The mountains.
Yeah.
Right? So I think that's a little bit of a difference. You know what this reminds me of, though, is that we're talking about, or we were talking about a little bit earlier this week, but you're going to see Charlie Barron's, and Charlie Barron's has a video with the You Betcha guy where they're talking about which states they should include in the Midwest. This is us discussing who should be a part of the Pacific Northwest.
FCS playoffs getting started tonight. That's pretty cool there. We've got the FCS National Championship game will be on our airwaves when that rolls around, coming up a little bit later on. You had me wondering if SOU football sniffed its way into the playoffs.
Oh, for NAIA.
NAIA. I don't think they did.
They had a really good season.
They finished out with a loss against College of Idaho. It does not look as if they made their way in. I know Linfield...
They lost in D3. Linfield did.
They lost?
This past week, yeah.
Oh, really? So their playoff already started.
Yeah. Oh, so it looks like, Southern Oregon lost to Carroll, and they lost to College of Idaho to end their year, 8-3. Good year for them.
Yeah, it was, but missing out on the post. That's a team that has made runs in the postseason.
Lost in overtime, too. Gunnar Yates, heck of a season for him.
Named All-American.
Yeah, really phenomenal season.
Myrtle Point.
Coquille,
yeah.
Yeah, he went to Coquille High School. A phenomenal season for him. Broke his dad's record for rushing touchdowns in a season.
That's pretty cool.
It is pretty cool. And this is a kid that, last season played in 2 games, and this year has come out and ran for almost 1,500 yards, 27 touchdowns. Good for him.
Linfield lost in the second round of the D3 playoffs to Mary Hardin Baylor at home, 28-18, losing at home. Pretty surprising.
I saw that. Yep.
Actually,
out of all people, John Canzano reported on that.
Linfield is a powerhouse for football in the state of Oregon. Yes. I know we talk Ducks and Beavers a lot here on the program, but SOU has had its moments at NAIA. They've been a good program, national championship winning program.
New coach.
Yeah, they've gone through some very good peaks, and then they've hit a couple of valleys with some of what they've gone on with transfers of coaches coming through. Unfortunately, had a coach pass away there, and that kind of kicked off their run of a couple of different coaches going through. But they've been good through the years a lot of times. And then Linfield has just been dominant. But to see them bow out in a home game in the second round, that's a little surprising there in that one. So you had me thinking about that with the FCS playoffs going on.
Yeah,
and,
there's 3 games tomorrow, too, for the FCS playoffs. You got future Mountain West Conference member UC Davis in all sports but football. Asterisk. They're facing off against South Dakota tomorrow at 12. Incarnate Ward, former Cam Ward territory, facing off against South Dakota State. That's a 9 a.m. kickoff. And then you got Mercer. Yes, the Mercer that we talked about a little bit earlier, and the powerhouse of Mercer that, traditionally plays the Alabama or Georgia every year. They're at North Dakota State.
Okay, so there's some football coming up this weekend. We've got Army-Navy coming up tomorrow, 11 o'clock in the morning. You can tune in for coverage of Army-Navy here on The Score. We'll have that for you here this weekend. Also, we mentioned earlier, bowl games coming up. Celebration Bowl tomorrow at noon. That'd be a 9 a.m. kickoff. Got to remember these are Eastern times. On ABC, on ESPN, 6 o'clock tomorrow night, the Salute to Veterans Bowl, South Alabama and Western Michigan. Then next week, we really start getting into the bowl season. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, we've got bowl games going on each day there during the week. Tuesday at 6, Wednesday at 2:30. Yes, I love me some afternoon action in some football. Oh, hey, look at that. It's that Boca Raton Bowl that I'm just so excited about.
Yeah.
Number 24 UNLV and Cal.
That's a good game.
LA Bowl coming up next Wednesday at
good
6,
hire
so.
for UNLV. Dan Mullen going there. Really good hire to replace Barry Odom. Also,
game that night's going to be just super over the moon for the New Orleans Bowl, Sam Houston and Georgia Southern. Yes, you were going to say?
Yeah, I actually am fired up.
I know you are.
Okay. Do you know why?
We got to make it quick.
Okay, sorry. This is the last thing I want to get to. I just saw this. How rare is a college football game in South Bend? The last time the Fighting Irish had a home game on a Friday was November 30th, 1900, when they downed the Chicago Physicians and Surgeons 5-0 at the Cartier Field.
This is the last time they've played a home game this late in the year? Is that?
Yeah, well, it's part of that, but this is the last time they played a home game on a Friday.
Oh, gotcha.
The last time they played
1900?
1900 against the Chicago Physicians and Surgeons.
They won 5.
And they won 5-0.
Baseball score.
Dude, terrible for anybody that had under 4.5.
Oh, just a heartbreaker. I mean, I can only imagine what the spread was on that one. All right, we got to wrap it up there. We will be back next Friday for more football talk here on The Score. I hope you enjoyed the program. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. For Knight Jarecki, I'm Joey Keeran. This is the Umpqua Basin Tailgate Show, and it is presented by BTB Moving. Have a great weekend, everybody. Whether it's across town or across the state, moving is always a chore. So let BTB Moving help with your next move. BTB Moving.